So a recent referral I had was for Mary. Mary's in the 4th grade. She's 9 years old. She's a good student, very attentive, and no one would ever question Mary's effort, but she's falling further and further behind. She's at least, by most curriculum-based measures, at least 1 grade level behind. Mounting frustration appears evident for Mary, and she was referred for a psychoeducational evaluation. The primary concerns were in the areas of reading, written language, and spelling, but also there was an undercurrent, a bit of anxiety cropping up into the mix as well. So with Mary, we started our evaluation with a cognitive assessment, and she scored in the average range. We could certainly rule out that the curriculum was moving too quickly than her capacity to learn. Everything on her cognitive profile was relatively average. A traditional achievement test was administered that did nothing more than reiterate what the teacher already told us. Most standard scores were in the high 70s and low 80s, suggesting that her reading and written language skills were below grade level. Math was closer to a 90, which was on grade. We'll say weak on grade, but fair enough on grade level. That alone certainly was not enough to explain why Mary was below grade level. That type of assessment does nothing more than to validate what the teacher already knows. We administered the FAR to determine why she was struggling in reading. And what stood out on the FAR is a very, very weak phonological index, those core foundational skills in reading simply were lacking. And what it appeared is that Mary was very, very good at covering up some of her weaknesses. As children often are, they're very good at masking weaknesses. She was trying to memorize her way through reading. Her orthographic processing and fluency index on the FAR was relatively intact, in particular, her score on the orthographic processing subtest. She was using these rocket-powered skills to sort of mask her way and memorize reading and the words, and that will only take you so far if the foundational phonics skills are not there. It was impacting her comprehension, and what we determined from the FAR is that Mary had subtype 1. We refer to that as dysphonetic dyslexia, or a better term for school systems appeared to be she had a language-based learning disability. But the nature of most learning disabilities, and especially the nature of dyslexia, it doesn't just impact reading. It can rear its ugly head in other academic subjects, specifically with written expression. So we also administered the FAW. And on the FAW, we have our dyslexia dysgraphic index. What that means is it's looking at spelling, not trying to determine, are you a weak speller? It's readily apparent she's a weak speller. The question, the salient question we want to answer is she a weak speller because her dyslexia is directly impacting her written language and spelling skills? Because students who struggle to sequence sounds and decode words when they read, they often struggle to sequence sounds and encode words when they spell. Her spelling score, her dyslexic dysgraphic index score was particularly low. Not knowing and being aware that spelling was an issue, it was also impacting her writing skills because she was not a risk taker. She was afraid to choose and select different words unless she was 100% confident she could spell them correctly. So her written passage was subsequently impacted by her lack of confidence with writing, all predicated around that poor spelling, which initially stemmed from dyslexia. There certainly was an undercurrent of anxiety as well. So as part of our evaluation, we also administered the FACT. We had no inkling, nothing that would suggest that trauma was particularly in Mary's background. But the purpose of administering the FACT was to determine her general comfort level in school, which by and large was not bad, but on the anxiety cluster of the FACT, it did spike just a bit. This really informed intervention decision-making on a number of levels. First of all, Mary qualified for special education as a student with a learning disability. But that's not the end point of our evaluation. The end point is what interventions did it generate. And we were able to construct an individual education plan that really went back to the science side of reading to build those core foundational phonics skills. But in addition, we wanted to assist Mary just a bit to help her feel a little bit more comfortable and less anxious in the classroom. Strategies on her IEP included: we're not going to call on Mary to read out loud in front of the class unless her hand is raised. Strategies for Mary could include preferential seating in class, extra time on certain assignments, and especially on tests, which she was particularly nervous about. Her IEP tried to include supports and accommodations so she could relax more in class and thrive as well.